stage and by an American couple, and since it found on my Greek family, and so I thought, well, this would be pretty cool. So long story made short, the booster folks at that time and I decided, let's make this happen. And so we took 25 singers out of vocal ensemble and went to a 2-week international music festival on the island of Syros, Greece. And we sang Carmen with university singers from Corfu and people from the Met and all over Europe. And then they also did a 30-minute a cappella program. And that was our first foray into international travel. And Mark will tell you that it was just the best trip, period. It was amazing.
You're talking about the Greece trip?
Yep.
Oh yeah, it was magical. To be on a small island and get to know the locals, that was incredible on one level. And then the performances set the bar for every trip that we took afterwards.
Totally. So then in 2012, we finally made it to Carnegie Hall, going to New York. That was a difficult trip. We took 120 students.
Oh.
And it was a challenge. The meals were the biggest challenge, and that's where I learned a lot about how to tour with choir, and what to expect and what not to expect, and how to make it all happen. In 2015, we did Paris and London with the tour group that we're going with on this tour. Encore Tour is part of MCHS, which is it the largest group?
It's not the largest.
But it's big.
It's big.
And fabulous.
I think it's the best.
I do too. Yeah, I'll introduce that person in just a minute. And so we went to Paris and London, and I said, I want to sing in Notre Dame, I want to sing in Chartres Cathedral, I want to sing in Canterbury, and Encore made it all happen. We sang 6 concerts in 8 days, I think. It was crazy. We sang at St. George's Chapel at Windsor Castle. The Queen was there, but not for a concert. I mean, it was an amazing trip. And that's where we really sort of made our name in liturgical sacred music on that trip. We sang Mass at Notre Dame, Mass at Chartres, concert at Canterbury Cathedral, concert at Oxford Christ Church Cathedral, concert at Grosvenor Chapel, and then the concert at St. George's of Windsor Castle. And Notre Dame said to us, you can come sing Mass for us anytime. Please come back. So then, in 2017, we went up the Rhine, and that was during Holy Week. And there, we started Palm Sunday in this amazing Lutheran church dating back to 1635 in Amsterdam. The next day, we sang a concert in Cologne Cathedral, which used to be the largest building in Europe. The next day, we sang in the Abbey of Hildegard von Bingen in Rudesheim, Germany, one of the oldest abbeys. Thursday was Holy Thursday Mass in Strasbourg Cathedral. And again, it was just a trip that was incredible. And it was on a riverboat. And I said after that trip, I would never, ever do a land tour again. Because having everybody on a riverboat together, knowing that when we go away, there's nowhere where the kids can go. I mean, it was just perfect. And people were coming up to me on day 2 and day 3 saying, okay, this is the perfect trip. We can't plan a vacation like this. And so we want you to keep us here. So we tried to do it last year with the Danube, as most of you know, and the problem that crept up on us was nobody would give us venues. I worked for months and months and months, and everybody paid, everything was great, but we had no place to sing. And I could not in good conscience sign a contract without venues. And so we had to cancel that trip. So then last spring, Mark said to me, where do you want to go? I thought, well, Italy. We've not done Italy. So I called Encore, knowing that they could do the job for us, and I said to James, we want to do Italy, and I want to sing here, 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 and here. He goes, done, in my back pocket. Got it for you. Great. I said, now, here's the deal. We are not even going to talk to you until you have the venues in place. I'm not going to go through that yet. And he goes, okay. send me a bio, send me your bio, the choir's bio, all your stuff about touring, programs that you took up the Rhine, and any stuff about your teacher of the year stuff, send it all. So I did. And then about 4 weeks later, 4 or 5 weeks later, I get this text from him going, I just sent you an email, you're not going to believe it. I said, okay. And I'm driving home and I thought, okay, I can't wait, I'm just going to call him. So got him on the phone and he said, well, you're going to start in Rome rather than Venice. So Palm Sunday weekend, we're in Rome, and you're going to start with a concert in St. Agnes of Agony Church, cathedral type place. And then Holy Monday, you're singing in St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican. And I had expected that. I knew that that was probably going to happen, because that's not the precedent. And then he says, you're going to sing Holy Thursday in Florence. And then he said, now this next one, none of us, we have no concept how this happened. You are singing Easter Sunday in St. Mark's Cathedral in Venice. We've never had a choir Easter Sunday in St. Mark's. You're the first. So, knowing that the venues were in place, I thought, okay, now we can move forward and we can make this happen. So what you have in front of you right now is the full itinerary. I do want to say to you, it does say, it says the venues, and then it says like to be determined or whatever. They've been determined. The only one that hasn't been determined is Florence. So we are set for Rome and Venice, and we're waiting on Florence right now. So before I get into any more details about this trip, I want to talk to you about the changing culture that I see happening here at MiraCosta. I've actually been talking a lot with faculty, and I actually just saw our former VP, Karina Gerger, just moments ago, who's now principal of Pennycamp, and we were talking about this very thing that I'm going to talk to you about, that we have seen this shift. And here's what the shift is, and I think there's a reason why we're seeing this. I think there is an overwhelming amount of information coming at us every day in the form of social media, email, television, radio, whatever. And I think most of us are just pretty darn overwhelmed by it. And a lot of us have decided to just check out. I'm just not gonna listen to all this stuff anymore. How that's playing out on campus is we are finding that many, many people are not reading what we're sending you to be here with. And that's what's been happening with the Choral Union trip. For those of you who have students in Choral Union that are going to San Jose. And I say this not in any way like complain or reprimand. I just want to give you a piece of information that will help us all get through this much more easily. And it's this. When we send you information, we really, really want you to read it. Because all of the answers are there. I literally got 3 emails this morning. What do we do about that? And it was just sent out like 4 days ago from us and the company. And it was very clear that the parent had not read. And it was like several parents. And I think it's because we're just all overwhelmed with all this media and everything that's coming at us and the social, cultural, political climate in our country right now. And so I just ask you, as you can imagine, to oversee something like this from my end and teach a full day every day is a big job. Put on top of that inquiries that could have been handled by just reading the emails. It really does help my day if I don't get all those. So if we can agree to really just soak up all of this information that we're going to give you, that'll make everything go a lot smoother. And so I'm just going to ask your real cooperation for that. So let's just talk about how we tour with MiraCosta choirs. When we went to San Francisco, we were in mid-tour with vocal ensemble and advanced women's chorale, the name of that part at that time. And these two girls came up to me and they said, "We love touring. You're like really classy." And I said, "Well, thanks." I said, "I like to do things really well and really nice and make it really enjoyable for everybody." They said, "Well, it is." And so we try to create these venues that are world class, and on top of that, we want really great experiences for all of us in the form of touring and dining and hotel, and we create that for them. And so this tour is definitely going to have all that for sure. And I want to, at this point, may I introduce you, Mr. Clark?
Sure.
Okay, so Mr. Clark, Dan Clark, is Catherine's mom, her dad, and her parents actually. Catherine came to me 2 days ago and said, "Can I talk to you?" I'm like, "Sure." And she said, "Well, I think I need to share something." I said, "Okay." And she said, "My dad is like really connected to the former king of Italy." And I went, "What?" She goes, "Yeah, he is. And in fact, my grandparents were married in the Vatican. And he was baptized in the Vatican. And then she says, my parents were married in the Vatican. And he has all of these connections to the Vatican and has family in Italy or in Rome that own these amazing restaurants." And I went, "Stop just a minute. Let's talk." And so Mr. Clark has agreed to pursue all this for us and see what we can do in Rome. Already we know that we're going to be dining in some of the family's restaurants. And I've already contacted Encore about this, and that will diminish a little bit of the cost because they're, I think, going to be very generous to us. And he is also going to see what other kinds of things we can supplement while we're in Rome, maybe possibly Florence and Venice, I don't know yet, but certainly while we're in Rome. So just know that connection over here is happening, and as soon as we get everybody registered, we'll have numbers, we'll have idea of what kind of group we're looking at, and then we can really specifically look at what can happen for us in Rome. So would you all please give me one of the first things I think you should ask yourself about one of our tours is safety and how we approach that. I always ask this question: would you want to be responsible for 170 people traveling in Europe and 60 of those people are high school students? Would you want to be responsible for that? Sure. Most would say no. And I say yes for a lot of reasons. And with that yes is huge risk. Felice Shapiro, raise your hand please. Felice is on our Spanish faculty, and she travels every year to Spain. And I have been on 3 trips. 3 trips with Felice as a chaperone, and her trips are incredible. And every time we get on that plane as teachers, it's a risk. Agreed? Agreed. Yep. But we do it for our passion for our students and travel and education and experiences. And so with that risk, there must be a framework in place that allows everybody to really enjoy the trip, but also be very cognizant of their responsibility in the trip. I think the first thing that I would say to you is that this is not you or your child's vacation. This is a choir tour. And that makes it a very specific kind of experience in that we are there to sing, perform, represent our high school, our community, our country. And so there are lots of rules in place. And you're going to be getting those once we get everybody registered and all that kind of stuff. But just know that up front, we take this very seriously. And chaperones for this particular trip are going to be administrators and teachers. More administrators actually than teachers. We have to, by purview of the district, have 1 chaperone for every 10 by gender. So if there are 40 females, I have to have 4 chaperones. If it goes to 42, I have to have 5 for every 10 or small proportion thereof. Same way with the boys. And so I've already been talking with admin on the campus, and they're ready to go. They really want to support this. And they also know that it's a lot of work. We did this for Carnegie with just admin and teachers, and it was very successful. They just know, you know what it's like to travel, and you know what you need to do. So your students are in very, very good hands. And so, again, when we get this all rolled out, I'll be telling you more about the specificity of the rules. You'll be signing a document, your students will, a code of conduct that's very, much more specific than you've seen for these festival things that we've been doing, or that we're doing recently. For this, it's a lot more. Curfew. We do institute a curfew. It's typically around 11 at night, depending on the travel day. It's a very long day every day. We pack the day. And on concert days, it's really, really a long day because they're all geared up and they get really excited, and we do these amazing concerts, and we do dinner if it's that the time frame, and we get back and we put them to bed. And our expectation of every child is that they go to bed. And there's no coming out in the hallway, there's no running around, they are down for the night, for the next day. And we're very, very serious about that. And so I would say to you now, ask yourself this question and ask your child, are you ready for this experience? Are you ready for something that is going to be, first of all, this exciting, but also has this kind of framework where it guarantees success on all levels, and also gives them a framework where they can be cared for, but also they're being responsible at the same time. And so just sort of give that some thought. This is something that people always are sort of surprised at with my tours. I actually have a dress code. And the reason I do this is because of a woman that many of you will meet if you go on this tour. Her name is Linda Fredericks. She is the former French teacher and actually was a VP a while for here, and also head of the foreign language department. And she is the one that instituted all the travel that you see so much on this campus. She was one of the first people to do this by going to France. And I went to France with her 3 times. And Linda actually institutes a dress code for her kids when they go to France. For us, particularly for this trip, it's almost going to be, I'm not going to say it is required, but it's, the word is, it's practical. Because we're going to be in the Vatican, and we're going to be in St. Mark's, and we're going to be in St. Agnes of Agni. And these cathedrals are very specific about dress code, particularly with bare shoulders, all that kind of stuff. And so I just take that a little bit farther, and you'll be getting that dress code. And people, the students are initially are like, really? And I go, yep, and go, okay. And everybody's fine. But just know that up front, we'll be very specific about how that works. I just talked about meals. Dining is a big deal for me. I'm a big foodie. Italy's going to be great, and his family's going to be incredible with us. And Encore knows that I love good dining. When we went to France and London and Paris, our big evening meal was at the Eiffel Tower on the lower restaurant, and it was magnificent. It was so much fun. And so we'll be instituting some lovely dinners. Breakfast and dinner is supplied every day. There is, I think, one lunch, and then the rest of the lunches are on our own. And the chaperones, each of the chaperones is giving how many ever kids, like 7, 6, 7, 8, whatever, how many it comes out to. And they, on these kinds of parts of the tour, help guide the kids to lunch and take care of them. And as parents accompanying, you can go off and do what you want to do, and we'll help you with regard to the neighborhood that we're in. Encore is very good about giving us a list, and it's just, it's another way to experience the country and not go to a Hard Rock Cafe, a McDonald's, okay? Let's see. Oh, I'll get to that in a minute. Flights. I've been on the phone all afternoon with James, our first initial contact with Encore, then it's gonna move on to Maggie in the Boston office once we get all registered. I know several of you will want to fly maybe on your own, or you want to upgrade, or maybe you've got people around the country that are coming from other portal cities. That can all be accommodated. And so just know, initially when you register, register for, how do I say this, Senate? Because she went out and registered. Just register for the regular full package. Yeah, he did. Right. Initially register for just, don't register and have it not for air. Have it include air, and then later, once we get everything going, if you have other arrangements, all you have to do is tell him, or well, it'll be Maggie, and Maggie will make those adjustments for you. And that's not a problem at all. There is a fundraiser that Encore Tours gave us. We have, I'm going to read this to you. They gave us a free European winter weekend fundraiser trip. And here's what it is. Encore Tours is pleased to provide your ensemble with an incredible European winter tour weekend package to use as a fundraiser in your community. It's, pardon me, 3 nights hotel accommodation and round trip airfare to Paris or London. It's over Veterans Day weekend, November 7th through the 11th, 2019, or MLK weekend, January 6th through the 20th, 2020. The money raised by this raffle is used however we want to use it. And how we're going to use it is to lower the price of the students' trips. And so we talked with James quite a lot about this afternoon. We're going to be giving you more information about that once we solidify how this is going to work. But basically what's going to happen is your students are going to sell tickets, raffle tickets for this trip. And let's say that you want to buy, let's say you want to win this trip. And you buy, you can buy one, just as an example, we don't know if this is how it's going to work yet, but this is sort of how it works. You could buy one ticket for $10. Or you could buy 6 tickets for $50. Or you could buy 15 tickets for $100. And you are now in the loop, and if your ticket's drawn out, you win that trip. And all of that money is going to go to our students. How we're going to allocate that money, we're still working on. We want to talk about that more as president, booster people, and figure it out. But the students have an opportunity to raise money by literally just selling raffle tickets to this trip, and it will help reduce the costs of the trip. Another way that, yes?
Do you think that the raffle ticket is going to be tax deductible?
They typically,
that might be an
my experience with raffles is that they have not been, but we can check that out.
It's not considered donations. Usually, it's considered gambling.
Because you're receiving. It is.
It's not
Right.
considered tax deductible.
That's what I thought. Yeah. Another way that the trip could be reduced, actually for everybody, is the more people we get to sign up, that number begins to drop that you're seeing on that page. And so the more people we get, the more likely that your trip will get lower. So just keep that in mind. That's why I had everybody sign in tonight, put their student's name and how many accompanying people. Because there is, where there's a threshold that we need to get, first of all, to get this price. That's 90 people. Will get us the price that you see there. Then, going over that starts creating the likelihood for the reduction of the price. Did I say that correctly? Okay. So we want to roll this fundraiser out with the students relatively soon. We want to get it going probably by December. Okay? With regard to registration, the reason why we're having this meeting tonight and the reason why the board was asked to approve this trip so early is Encore needs this lead time because it's Easter in Italy. Have any of you been to Italy at Easter time? Mr. Clark, how crazy is it?
It's insane.
Right,
Whatever you do, don't try and drive.
right. Luckily, we're going to be in buses. It is a bus transportation from Rome to Florence, Florence to Venice, and then obviously flying home. It's crazy. Now, what's interesting is on our campus right now, our police resource officer, Mike Sistoni, is Italian and has a place in Italy. And I talked with him about this, and he said it's nuts. I'll be right up front. It's nuts. Pickpockets, stuff can happen. And as police and I know, we really talk to our kids about how to be smart in a crowd, how to be safe. Our chaperones know about this. It's just part of what we do to educate them to have a really great trip and hopefully a trip without incident. Knock on wood somewhere, we have had no incidents with all the tours that we've done. We've been very, very fortunate. But I tell you this because this trip, it is sort of the next step up as far as the grandeur of the trip and just immenseness of it. There are going to be thousands and thousands of people in Rome. Am I right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. But that's part of the charm of this trip. And the good news is Encore is going to give us a tour person on every bus. So let's say we get to 160 people. We'll have 3 buses. And there will be a person on each bus, and we'll all be very well cared for. I am notoriously organized for these kinds of trips and really have everything down to practically the minute. The first time we went to Paris and London, they sent me the itinerary and I said, not specific enough. I want to know what we're doing at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Wednesday. And I really am that defined about it. Because we don't want any surprises. We really want to have everything laid out for everybody. That's, with regard to the logistics, pretty much it. Now I want to talk about the music. I took a straw poll the other day of the 4 choirs, and you may not know this, I don't take freshmen ever on an international trip. I wait till they're a sophomore when there's a little bit more maturity and just ability to soak up what we do. So with this year's current freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, who will be next year's sophomores, juniors, and seniors, I took a straw poll, and there were 68 kids interested in going on the trip. Now, we'll see where this comes out, but in that straw poll, I also wanted to see the voicing and to see what I would have available to me in a choir. And it's really great news. If it pans out like I hope it does, we could conceivably have a festival choir that is like what we took to Paris and London, that is, the full choir is an existing SATB choir. If our guys are singing like they are now, which they certainly will be, I think they can balance the number of sopranos and altos that would be in that choir. I also have just this soprano-alto choir, because I like featuring just treble voices. I am also going to feature TTBB choir, because I have all these guys. If the balance between tenors and basses and sopranos and altos doesn't work, because there's so many sopranos and altos, I'll take a number of sopranos and altos that match the number of guys and create a chamber choir. And we did that for Paris and London. So the possibility of choirs that exist is likely 3. A mixed, a men's, and a women's. And we feature them in each one of our performances, whether it be the Mass or our concert that we do in St. Agnes or the concert in Venice. And so, and then the music, of course, is all sacred because it's Holy Week, although occasionally we'll throw in something, but we also have to think about, in these churches, they typically ask for approval of repertoire, and having done the Rhine like we did it during Holy Week, gosh, Mark, did we have any secular music on that trip? I don't think we did.
Maybe one. But
One,
obviously we didn't perform it at the churches.
right, yeah, it was all sacred music because of the time frame. So, and I want to say to you, what's happening in the choirs right this week is brilliant. We are hearing singing like we haven't heard from particularly Mustang Chorale and Costa Chorale. They're singing amazing. And Mark looked at me about 2 weeks ago and he goes, you know your festival choir for Italy is going to be outrageously fabulous. I know. It's going to be incredible. And it is. They're singing really beautifully. So that's sort of the framework for how we do these performances. You've got everything in front of you as far as information about the itinerary. The booklet is really fabulous. It's so explanatory. And again, please read, and virtually every question you might have is going to be answered. Also, Thursday or Friday, you're going to be receiving an email from Sene. We received today the links that allow you to go online and register and make it really simple. Now, Sene already registered her daughter just, first of all, to go through the process a little bit, see what it's like. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Yeah, I actually didn't have that, but I just had this sheet.
Right.
So, my daughter has been involved in another encore tour through the French department here. So I've done these before, and I just went to www.encore here. What you do is you go there, you're required to register. You have to do a separate registration for every participant. So it's not like you can do a family registration. You have to go through there are 3 of you going, you have to go through the process 3 times, each with your own email address, your own username, and your own password. And then it'll walk you through the steps to register your student.
Or a family member or
family
adult.
member. When it's finished, you want to write down your login information so that you have it available. You'll get an email letting you know what they've received. You do have to go in. This is something that everybody will have to do is you have to go in and print a waiver form because they have an extensive waiver form. You have to print it, sign it, and then either mail it or fax it or email it.
Will you count the number on that clipboard?
I did that today, and I've already gotten my confirmation that they received it from my daughter. I haven't signed myself or my husband up yet because I just wanted to do this as a trial to see how hard it was. They're going to ask you for passport information, which if you don't have it, for any member of your group, you'll need to get on the passport. And you don't have to turn it in right away, but they'll have it on your account. They'll say, you're still missing this. And so if you go, once you've filled out the initial registration, you log in and look, and it'll tell you what you're missing. And then it's up to you to go back in and make sure that you give them what's required. They have, payments are available online. You can do payments by credit card. You can also, they have automatic payments that you can set up either, I think it's every 2 weeks, every month, quarterly. It's kind of, they'll let you figure it out. And they'll come right out of your checking or savings account. You cannot do automatic credit card payments. Those you have to physically do every time. And they send you reminders before your next payment is due. So they're really on top of letting you know what needs to be done. The one thing that I would say is, as Michael was saying a little earlier, you have to read what's there and you have to fill it out. I probably took me half an hour maybe to get through everything for my daughter. So if, set aside some time to focus on that. And if more than one person is going to multiply by the number of people that you're registering, so it'll take a little while. It's ultimately very doable, but you just have to focus on it.
Great, thanks, Senator. The deposit they're asking for by November 15th is $200. Ultimately, this is a non-refundable deposit that turns into $350. Did I get that correct? Thank you. So while your deposit initially is only $200, if for some reason you decide not to go, you're going to lose $350 up front, flat out. And we asked about that today, and I said, when does that kick in? And he said, the moment they register. So really, give this some thought about whether, you're ready to really make this commitment. You see the payment schedule there on the back page, and again, that's flexible.
It's flexible depending on
Right.
whether you do an automatic payment.
Right. I also asked you to look at the protection plan that's offered. There is a protection plan that they offer that's covered by this trip, but if you want an extra coverage for your trip insurance, that would be under the comprehensive protection plan that's listed under total group fees. Okay, so please read about that in the booklet. Again, because it's so crazy at Easter, and they've got to get hotel for everybody and air, that's why we're having this meeting tonight, and that's why we need you registered by November 15th. So we want you registered before Thanksgiving, because they need to have an idea of how many hotel rooms and what kind of air they're looking at. They can't get air until 11 months out. However, they need the number now, so they can start thinking about how they're going to do this. And so we really want you to get registered within these next weeks. So by the time we leave for Thanksgiving, I've got a number that I can call. Well, I don't have to call, they know, because you registered. And we'll know where we are. So again, this is sort of the really great nuts and bolts, and the booklet you have is the real details. And it's really explanatory and really great. Mark, do you have a number?
I'm signed up on the sheets here are 42 students with the addition of 89 to 105 friends and family.
Woohoo! Thank you.
42 and 89 to 100?
89 to 105 perhaps.
So we're looking at 140, 50 right now. And I got a feeling that's going to go up. I'm pretty certain of that. I'm sort of speechless right now, actually. Wow.
That's really rare.
Yeah.
I really love you. That's really funny.
Well, I'm just thinking about 175 people all going to Europe and in Italy.
And I'm thinking about 175 people at my cousin's restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Huh. Okay, here we go. Tell your friends and family. We want to take as many that want to go. I'll start taking questions as best I can in the back.
Also, if you would speak loudly, we're recording tonight, so the parents that aren't here, you can let us know. Speak loudly so that they can understand the question.
Great.
Given the number of friends and family that have expressed an interest in attending, what's the likelihood that students would be housed in one hotel and friends and family would be housed elsewhere?
That's a great question. Typically what they try to do is to get everybody in the same hotel, and that's why they want these numbers now. If we get to a number where they need to change that, they will let us know. And I'll certainly let you know accordingly, but that's exactly why we're doing this right now.
But the student group will
The
stay
students
together.
will be staying together. Oh, I didn't talk about this. This is easy and solved, and just a big piece of information, but actually not so big. The students are in triples, okay? Because the European hotels are done like that Encore use. They're great hotels that we've been in. Because of the number situation, there may be 1 or 2 rooms for students that are doubles because of the gender and the odd number, even number, as it works out to triples. For adults, Pardon me, this price is for double occupancy. You won't be in triples, okay? So, unless you want to be. Like if you have a family member and it turns out that you want a triple, it can work like that. You'll just be telling them when you register. I saw another, yes?
So, yeah, so just, there was the additional fees as applicable, the single room supplement, so this number is for doubles.
That is for
Adults
double
and-
occupancy,
and
for
triples the
adults
kids.
and triples for our kids.
Okay, and so we don't have to worry.
You don't have to worry.
It's for alone. Okay.
Correct, yes.
A lot of kids inquire, a lot of kids won't be going. Is there gonna be separate rehearsals?
Oh, I didn't talk about that. Thank you. This is what we did for the Rhine, and it worked brilliantly. What we did is we used PM office hours. Now, I want to make sure that you hear me say this, and it's on video, so I have proof that I said this. Because we ran into this problem 2 years ago, and I kept saying, I did not say that, so please hear me. We use PM office hours. It is voluntary, and the kids make it work. Now, if they do have to see a teacher or take a test, they go. And it's no problem at all. And it worked. We started in the fall. In the fall semester, that first office hours we meet, we hand out music, and we hit the ground running. And kids will come up to me and say, Mr. Hayden, I have to go see my math teacher this afternoon. And I go, no problem. And I said, if you're done early, come back. And so please know that this is how we do it, and it works really well. When we went to Paris and London, we did Sunday afternoon rehearsals. Never again. It was brutal on everybody. And PM office hours really works well. There you go. Other questions? Yes?
Sorry, just real quick, so how about rehearsals on a trip?
They're more like warm-ups. On the Rhine, we had, I want to say, like maybe 2 rehearsals. One for sure. The women weren't as solid as they needed to be on the piece that they were featured on in the Abbey and in Strasbourg, and they said, can you please rehearse? I'm like, yeah. And so it worked out fine. But by that time, they know the music so well, it's really more about warm-ups and stuff. So there really isn't a lot of rehearsal. Am I right on that, Mr. McCormick?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
Where can I find information on the extent of how suitable a trip would be to bring my elderly mom?
Call, email me, and I will copy that to James and or Maggie, and they will respond to you beautifully on that. Okay?
Can you put that out for everyone else?
Yeah, I will when we get that answer. The question was how suitable it is for elderly people. I can tell you on the Rhine, it was great, but I also will tell you there's cobblestones and stuff, and it's a little sometimes tough. And in Rome during Easter, it's going to be really crowded, but we are on buses, and so I'll find that out. You're welcome. Yes.
Based on your experience, how many of the kids actually take their families versus go solo?
You know, that's changed because of the Rhine. Paris and London, we didn't have hardly any. Well, first of all, we took no parents with us. There was like, Mark, was there like 20 or 25?
Parents?
Yeah, that sort of shadowed us.
That's right. Back then they would kind of shadow along. They would have their own trip, kind of running simultaneously with our scheduled trip.
They didn't even book with us because we didn't do that. And so at that trip there was like maybe 20 parents that would just show up at a concert that we did. The Rhine was the big tipping point where we took 100 friends and family and 60 singers. And that's what changed. And so, and obviously this trip, the numbers are very similar, and I think will go up actually. There are folks in the district office that want to go, there are board members that want to go, or expressed interest. Actually, Mike Matthews has expressed interest, our superintendent. And so I know there are adults out in the community and across the nation that are very interested. So I think there will be more family and friends of our students that are going. And let me just address that really quickly. On the Rhine, I say this, and it really was true. The students kept the parents in check, and the parents kept the students in check. It was great. Everybody got along beautifully. And I can tell you, and I think you probably will understand this, kids deep down are really flexible, and on our tours, they're really flexible. And when you as adults go and you see that, and you may not be so flexible, you tend to become more flexible, which is a good thing, because that stuff doesn't always go as planned, as you can imagine on these big tours. And so that flexibility is a big deal. And so it's a really good a relationship that happens between the students and the families and parents and friends. And what's really interesting is, as many of the students won't admit it, they really love having you there. They really do. It's pretty remarkable. Other questions? Yes?
I just want to add, for any parents who have not sent their kid on one of these, we have an older daughter who did one through the same service to France, and just the kids, parents were not invited, and I was very not happy about that. But she had a great time, everything went fantastically, it was all very well organized, so I was glad to see that it was the same company.
Yeah, and I will say, if your child is going alone, they are going to be very, very cared for and comfortable. We make sure of that. Something else I didn't tell you, we have these lunch meetings once a week, starting in the second semester. It may be a little bit earlier this year because of the nature and the magnitude of this trip. And we give each, and I got this from Linda Fredericks. Linda did this with her France kids. We give each meeting at lunch a theme. One day will be how to not be the ugly American. One day will be how to not be a teenager. One day will be how to dress. One day will be what's it like to sing in a cathedral. Here's something else that we'll be doing. We did this on the Rhine, and I'm going to make sure we do this on this trip. The night before each concert, we threw this out to the kids and said, we want you as students to sign up to do a PowerPoint presentation on the venue that you're going to sing in the next day. And so that night on the ship, a kid got up and did this amazing PowerPoint on the Cologne Cathedral. And everybody had a perspective and history, and then the next day they're singing it. And everybody just benefited from that so much. And adults were just like blown away with our kids' presentation abilities, because that's what we asked them to do here on campus so much. And we thought, well, let's turn this really into an educational experience for the kids. And the kids really stepped up. They did a great job.
Speaking of the education component of it, you know, a trip like this can be overwhelming, even for an adult. Not in terms of the logistics and getting around, but in the experience of performing in these amazing places is really overwhelming. And I remember there were two girls walking up to the Cologne Cathedral who we were hearing them chat, and one of them said to the other, "What have we done to deserve this?" And there's a purposeful amount of reflection built into these trips so that, you know, when the whirlwind of the trip goes by, all is not forgotten, you know, and there's enough time to sit down and go, now, think back to what you were able to do today, you know, and put it in the long-term memory, because if, you know, that's really important to do on a trip like this.
One of the things that Mark created for our Rhine River tour, and I'm going to institute it in the lobby of our hotels, I think you know where I'm headed, is that Mark came up with this idea. What did you call it?
It's a gratitude board.
A gratitude board, that's right. And every day, adults, students were invited to take a sticky note and just say something they were grateful for that day and stick it on the board. And we all saw that in the lobby of the ship. Well, I want to do this in the lobby of the hotel. And you as an adult, the student, can just, you know, today I'm grateful for this. And you just see people standing in front of this board reading it. And people were like weeping or laughing or just completely loving this. And it gave, again, this moment for reflection, because it is such a whirlwind and it is so intense that we want to build in these moments where we just stop back a moment and go, okay, what did I just do? I just sang in the Vatican. Okay, let me just breathe in for a minute. And then they take and put that on board. And it's really pretty amazing. Other questions? Yes?
Will anybody be filming this, I hope?
Great question.
Please?
Yeah, when we went, we learned a lot on the ride. And we had all of this film footage, and Gordon Dressler and Eric Gray, Cindy's husband, compiled and turned this into a wonderful video. And so, yes, we will be doing that, and we will make that available to you once the trip is complete. And you'll have this amazing memory, visual and oral, of what they sounded like and looked like and sang. I have to find out what the recording policies are. Again, I just can't believe this is going to come out my mouth. In the Vatican and in St. Mark's specifically, but we'll figure all that out as best we can. Other questions? Yes, Abby.
For the choirs, we will be able to practice before we sing in all of the churches, right?
I don't know. She just asked if will the choir be able to sing it like rehearsed in the space. I don't know. We didn't in
Most of places.
most of the places we didn't. I remember looking at them in the Cologne Cathedral going, okay, here you are. You are in one of the oldest buildings in the world. And in a moment, when you sing that first chord, your voices are going to go into this stone where hundreds and thousands of other voices have gone into over centuries. Your voice is going to join them. And in that first moment, I want you to really listen and adjust. And we opened with that German motet, and you could just see the kids go, oh, God. And the reverb was huge, and they just knew what to do. So we really trained them for that. For those of you that know we've sung in the lobby, we'll be going into the lobby a lot next year because of the reverberance of it. We're doing that for Choral Union right now because of their performance they're going to do in the Silica in San Jose. But they don't get a rehearsal in the space. And again, that's where they become professionals, and we train them to be that way. Other questions? Yes?
Are parents that go guaranteed to be in on each performance?
Yes.
Shut out by the locals and stuff?
Yes, you are going to be there. That's part of what Encore does, and that's why when I decided to go to Italy, I thought I am not doing this on my own. I have to go with the Blue Ribbon Company, who will make sure we are there and we have everything we need. There also, something else that I did mention is that the Italian audiences are amazing. Am I right, Dan?
Oh, absolutely.
They're crazy, crazy good. And Encore builds those audiences for us for all our performances. And again, because it's Easter and Holy Week, it's like, I just can't even imagine. I really can't.
Wait, follow on to that.
Yeah.
I have a sister who told you lives in the Netherlands, and she and her husband
We just
will want
need
to
to
come
know.
down probably for the, so there will
Just
be
let us
a way
know.
to buy tickets?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, they're free.
Okay.
The concerts are free. And we'll just make sure they know when, where to show up early and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
On a personal note, my first trip to Europe was as a 17-year-old graduated senior from a small high school in southern Indiana. And I had been accepted to sing with America's Youth in Concert, a 220-voice choir from kids from all 50 states and an 80-piece orchestra. And in 1975, we toured Europe for a month. And we learned all this music once we got there, and we started in Rome. And we went Rome, Florence, Venice, Innsbruck, Geneva, Paris, and London for a month. I had my 18th birthday in Florence. I sang in St. Mark's. We prepared the program in Rome. It's just come full circle. I'm pretty excited. It's pretty neat. Anything else? Thank you for coming tonight, very, very much.